Penguin Random House Audio presents Politics on the Edge, a memoir from within. Written and narrated by Rory Stewart.
To Shoshana. Me debeo quid ego nunc interiora nostra et recondita consilia sermonesque arcanus eruam, ut repentinis nuntis ad praesentia et imminentia pericula evocatus tuis consiliis conservatus sim, ut neque audacius experiri casus temeri passa sis, et modestiora cogitante fida receptacula Parris. From Laudatio Curiae, 1st century BC. Why must I now expose all our most intimate chats, our personal plans and private conversations? How it was only your good judgment which saved me when a sudden message pulled me into immediate and present danger. How you did not allow me recklessly to tempt fate by an even more risky step, but instead created for me a safe and more modest place for reflection. Author's note. Facts, narration, prejudices. Many colleagues will be angry with what I've chosen to include, and with reason. All professions expect colleagues to be discreet about their experiences within the workplace. MPs are often proud of their records in government and their roles in Parliament, and many will be hurt that I have criticised things which they valued deeply. Some will feel I am unfair, bitter, and ungrateful. To which I can only answer that our government and Parliament, which once had a reasonable claim to be the best in the world, is now in a shameful state. And this is in part because other insiders, whether concerned for their friendships, their reputations, and their future careers, or simply more tactful than myself, continue to conceal its horrifying decline. Government of, by, and for the people should be exposed properly to the public eye. I have protected the identities of intelligence officers and special forces personnel and the details of their operations. I've not included the names of junior civil servants when the story is not to their credit. They should be able to give confidential advice to ministers without worrying about their reputations. I have kept the names of many backbenchers anonymous because I think their stories can illustrate the problems of parliamentary life without having to indict an individual. I've also concealed the names of some MPs whom I admired and who were immensely helpful to me, because it might not benefit their future careers to be praised by me. But I have named those people in public life who I thought were senior enough to bear responsibility. And generally, given a choice between discretion and honesty, I have chosen the latter. There will be mistakes in this account. This book is based in part on my diary entries, checked against documents, emails, WhatsApp messages, press reports, Hansard and video recordings of House of Commons proceedings, and memoirs by and interviews with others. With this assistance, I have tried to confirm my memories of events. But many descriptions still rely on my ability to recall accurately words and scenes. I have tried to be honest about my own vanity, ambitions, and failures, but I will often have failed to judge myself in the way that I judge others. I can see no way, however, of entirely avoiding the risks of personal memory in reconstructing a decade of life. The alternative would be blandness, evasion, or silence. If I may not always have recorded what is true, I have not written what I know to be false. This is a highly condensed version of my experience, The first draft of this book was 220,000 words long and still covered only a fraction of the events between 2010 and 2019. I have since cut half of that material entirely. Anyone interested in my involvement as a backbencher in Libya, or the campaign for community hospitals, my speeches inside and outside the House of Commons, my arguments as a minister over Yemen policy and rewilding, my fight with the government over COVID policy, or my run as an independent to be Mayor of London, would have to get their hands on the unpublished draft. For those stories are no longer included, nor are my detailed attempts to analyse Boris Johnson, populism, the hope for the centre ground, or the place of ethics in politics. I left politics with a deep love for my constituency, respect and admiration for the intelligence, competence, imagination and courage of many of my colleagues, and enduring friendships. But my final sense is one of shame, and my regret is often not about my openness, but about not being able to be more forceful in my condemnation. Prologue. We are seated on unstable cream leather bar stools, arranged in a shallow curve. The slogan, "Our next Prime Minister," is printed on the floor. There is no live audience, nor any room for one on this narrow studio stage. A wall, however, is occupied by a giant screen on which citizens will appear. 5 men, 1 job, says the presenter, Emily Maitlis, to one of the cameras. She is dressed in imperial purple. How they answer tonight will help decide who will become your next Prime Minister. It is the 18th of June, 2019. One of us will be Prime Minister on the 24th of July. "I hope," murmurs Boris Johnson, settling into his seat, "that this is not all going to be about Brexit." "No," says the presenter reassuringly. "We will keep the Brexit section short." "Oh, wait a second," I interrupt from across the room. "I hope we're going to have a lot on Brexit." "Don't worry, Rory, we'll have quite enough, I think." Behind us flicker fragmentary images of 10 Downing Street with cubist glimpses of Parliament and Big Ben through oddly shaped windows. We are live. One camera is zoomed in tight. Another shows us all, making us seem, with our legs coyly looped over the footrest of the bar stools, like diminutive nightclub crooners. The cameras do not reveal how easy it would be to fall. Since the shot will hover on each of us in turn for a few long seconds, we have had to choose an expression to hold. Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, 4 inches taller than the rest of us, and the only one good-looking enough to pass as an American politician, has apparently opted for noble determination. It's perhaps the look his father, the Admiral, adopted on the quarterdeck. Michael Gove, the Environment Secretary, 2 seats to my right, who might be the cleverest of us, and certainly the most excessively polite and right-wing, has one side of his mouth pulled up in a smirk, making him resemble a grammar school master presented with a comical error in Latin composition. Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, the most likeable of us, has his hands perfectly folded on his lap, and is conveying meditative serenity. I keep closing my eyes, and Boris Johnson, ever the punchline, looks as though he is a celebrity contestant bracing for a custard pie in the face. More images tumble over the giant screen. Protesters in face paint, young women in burqas, the Downing Street cat, and finally, 12 faces, apparently the people waiting to ask questions. One of the women seems angry, the imam in his prayer cap merely disapproving. As Emily works her way through her lengthy introduction, our expressions remain frozen, the cameras panning back and forth to check that we still resemble waxworks. Finally, a vast, amiable face with a hearing aid.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?